Yes, we've got a Hearts legend on the date. Ryan McGowan, thanks very much for coming on, big man.
Thank you for having me.
Also need to thank you for letting us film in your bedroom. Love what you've done with the boy.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It's nice curtains, nice colour.
Oh, we're going down in the world, didn't we? Right, I text Jim O'Brien, who you're at Bradford with now. I says to him, have you got anything for that I can slaughter Big McGowan for? He said his first touch. I put a laughing face and I wrote, what else? And he wrote his second touch. He's some man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been great. He's just joined us, so played a couple of games and thinks he's Pele now. And got injured.
He does, mate, didn't he? He's having him.
Yeah, he's just getting back, but we kind of need him back, really. We're struggling a little bit at the moment, but he's definitely good to have around the changing room.
He'll be up that table in no time. Just want to say, I was thinking last night, the Australian boys that have played in Scotland, yourself, Roderick, Scott McDonald, Ryan Edwards, he's all look quite similar. I think, has Big Mark Viduka got something to answer for?
Big Viduka, yeah. No, he was, there's been a few of us, all dark hair, kind of tall.
Gorgeous.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's not too bad. But there's a few ugly ones kicking about. Obviously, my younger brother, he was there, Matty Park. So there's a few that Viduka's maybe left out.
Right, mate. We'll go on to the upbringing in Australia. How was that coming through in Australia playing football? Because obviously Aussie rules is a sport. If you play that, you end up with a nose like this. So why was it football for you?
Just probably because of the family. Brought up, obviously, mum, dad, and all my aunties and uncles are Scottish, so they all moved out when they were quite young, and so kind of brought around that soccer environment. We call it soccer in Australia, so
none of that pressure on here. It's football, right?
So we were brought up like that, and just kind of associated with things like that. But it was good. You know, Australia with the weather, you pretty much play all sports. So even at school, you played cricket, football, Aussie rules, rugby. You kind of got everything, and most of your childhood spent outside, just playing different games.
So where was the family from? Glasgow.
Yeah, Coatbridge.
Coatbridge, were they?
Yeah, so they all moved out when they were about 20, 21 and settled
your
in
dad
Australia.
a big football fan?
Yeah,
What
big
was his
football
team?
fan. Celtic. So
Big
most
Celtic
of my family's unfortunately Celtic.
So playing football in Australia, how the hell did Hearts manage to see you playing over there?
It was probably from Dave McPherson. He had the
big
Hearts,
Dave McPherson.
Big Dave. So he had played his sort of end of career out in Australia, and he obviously kept a lookout for players that were, young players coming through, and I'd kind of been in and out of the under-17s and under-20 Aussie teams, so that's probably how I got noticed. And it was just a random phone call during the week to say from Dave McPherson asking if I'd be interested in going over to Hearts, and just things like if I had a British passport and if I'd be interested in going, and probably a couple of weeks later I was on the flight.
Was that always the aim when you were in Australia and playing? Was it always an aim to do well enough to move back over to either Britain or Europe?
Yeah, I think everyone that kind of grows up in Australia, especially at my sort of generation, we didn't have they've got the A-League now and they've got the Youth League, but at that time we only had 23 players. So for my team in Adelaide, they only had 23 players, didn't have a youth team set up, didn't have a academy system. So it was pretty much trying to get to that level, or as high level as you can in Adelaide, to try and get noticed and try and get a move or a trial elsewhere. And I was lucky enough that kind of progressed through quicker than a few others, and got noticed and got the opportunity to go over to Hearts.
So was there any doubts about going to Hearts, or were you up for it straight away?
Yeah, parents had doubts, but I was thinking 16, 17, travelling, going to a big club and being a so-called professional footballer, that was my dream growing up, so I was jumping at the chance. But looking back, I was only 16, 17, so there was a lot of things that my parents had to consider and think about. But from my side, that's what I wanted to be since I could walk, really. So I was not letting them get in my way, really.
So was it a trial, or was it going over to sign?
Yeah, it was pretty much go over to sign, really. It was only a youth team, so I was only going to sign for the 19s, with the hope of progressing, obviously, up into the first team. But even like Dave McPherson picked me up from Glasgow Airport, and I was just thinking I was the man walking around Glasgow Airport. Someone's picked me up, and just loved it. Loved literally everything that academy player probably hates. I really enjoyed. And
did you do the jobs and stuff like that?
Yes, used to have to do the boots, and obviously I came in a little bit late. So, all the boys you've got 6 players to clean. And I'm like, not a problem. Sitting there, just cleaning them. But I was alone. I didn't have anyone to go home to or to go back to. So I just used to love it. And we had a really good unit there at Hearts. We had to do all the jobs, and that sometimes they don't really do too much. So, you know, we used to have to get kept back till 3. We had Darren Murray, who was the youth team coach at the time, and he was right into, you know, making sure that everything was clean, you know, all the hallways, the changing rooms. So he would really make sure that we were on top of that, and yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
I know I ask this all the time on the show, but do you think young players should still be doing stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we were discussing it the other day. You know, some of the youth team players at Bradford, it's quite good. You know, they do the boots and they do a lot of the jobs.
Oh, did they? Right, good.
But you know, it just brings you. You know, you get to know the youth team boys. You get to not bully them as such, but you know, go get this or go get that, and you then become more approachable when they come up into the first team or come to train with you. You know their name. You know kind of their personality. You know he likes a joke. He's maybe a little bit more quiet. And it was the same at Hearts. You know, everyone used to know each other's name. Although there was 70 names at one point with all the foreigners and Lithuanians, so it was, that aspect was a bit different. But you know, Hartley and Presley, Gordon, they were all senior boys, and they could tell you everyone's name in the youth team, which was, you know, for us as youth team players was a big deal.
Because you mentioned the names there, big names obviously at Hearts, club legends. How were they guys we using the younger players? Yeah,
they were really good. They were really good. I'd only signed a couple of months, and then the whole Riccarton 3 and the sort of World War III started at Hearts, which, you know, again, I loved at the time. It was good, you know, listening to all the stories and all the rumours, and but yeah, you know, they were really good professionals, and at that stage, you know, we had some really good players at Hearts. What was
the script with the wheelbarrow races?
Yes, that was my first pre-season with the first team. I got called up to be the first team, and I can't remember. I think the fans used to call him Mad Eddie. He was the coach at the time. Didn't speak any English, and he used to just scream and shout. And then we had an interpreter who was the quietest, shy guy. So he would go off on a big rant, you know, screaming for 5-10 minutes, and then he would go, "He wants you to push up quicker." And you'd be like, "What? What's he saying?" And then yeah, just pre-season was literally wheelbarrow races from, you know, the goal line to the halfway.
No way.
And back.
And who organised that?
It was, you know, Hartley's on wheelbarrow races. Going, "Where the fuck's the camera? Who the fuck is setting me up?" Used to do, you know, shooting exercises. You start off in the corner flags. So you'd be on one corner flag, I would be on the other, and you'd blow the whistle, and you'd run to the centre circle, and then pass each other's, you know, I'll give the ball, you give the ball, and then run, so it's a 1v1, and then shoot and join the end of the line.
Full length of the pitch?
Full length of the pitch, but we'd do that for like an hour, and Craig Gordon used to just get the balls, just fuck them off, boot the balls off, way down the hill, and you have to go chase it, and that was just pre-season at that time was just mental. But as a 17, 18-year-old boy, I just used to think I could do it. You know, I'm doing all right here.
Would they three be the main characters in that dressing room then?
Yeah, had Neil McCann. Neil McCann was there. Robbie Nielsen, Presley, Gordon, Hartley. You know, had a good strong core, and then, you know, a few of them left quite quickly, and we were kind of left with Nielsen. He became captain. Christoph was kind of he had to kind of get, you know, sped up really into the captain's role after Robbie left, and then it was a little bit all over the place. We kind of went, you know, for 18 months it was kind of just crazy with managers. You know, we used to just joke, there used to be a guy in a suit that would come into to Harriet Watt, and everyone used to be like, "That's the next manager." And 2 weeks later, he would be the next manager.
But I want to ask you about Big Elvis, because obviously centre half, right back like yourself. Would Big Elvis take a keen interest in you? Would he help you?
Yeah, he was. You know, any time that you came up, he was really good, and I think he was probably the first one that I kind of watched in terms of, you know, studied what they did, and, you know, he was really keen on, you know, he wasn't the greatest on the ball, similar to myself and yourself, wasn't the greatest. Wasn't the greatest on the ball, and you know, he made a real career out of being determined and defending well and doing the dirty side. And I used to remember, no matter what session you did, he used to go in and get his little iPod, put it on his, we used to have like called the trim track, so it was maybe like a 3-mile run that you used to have to do sometimes in pre-season, and every day he would just go out and do that after training. So it wouldn't matter if it was a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, just go in, put his iPhone on, so off I go, chaps.
Chat, you loved the chat, that's brilliant.
And off he went. Yeah, he just did that every day, and, you know, I remember just thinking, you know, I was knackered, you know, from the training session, and there was a senior professional Scotland captain of the club out going for a 30-minute jog, and yeah, just little things like that I don't do it now, but I probably should. But, yeah, that's just what he used to do towards his, he's maybe in his mid-30s at that stage, and just to keep himself fit and topping up, that's what he did every day.
See, you're talking about the lack of managers and stability. Did that not worry you as a young player? Like, does my future lie elsewhere? Is this where I should be?
It did. At one point it did, of course, because I was kind of okay. I always had the 19, so I used to train with the first team and then get my game, or with the reserves or first team, and then a lot of players came in, so the reserve team, like that, a lot of first team players had to play. So you were kind of then on the bench. And that's probably, there was a certain spell where I was a little bit like, I can't see myself getting past, 10 or 15 fringe players even to sit on the bench. So I felt that I had to get out on loan, and then they still had that you had to have 3 under 21s on the bench. So for a long time I knew I was on the bench purely for that rule. I knew no matter, everyone could get injured and he still wouldn't have put me on, but it was just because of that rule. I was the same at Celtic, but you got the win bonus now, so it was brilliant. Amazing. So was it your decision to go on loan, or did the guy in the suit come to you? Yeah, it was a little bit. It was Brian Reid. It was Brian Reid at Ayr United, and he was quite close with Dave McPherson, who was my agent. So he kind of really pushed for it at that time, and Shabba Laszlo had just taken over, and I don't think he was too keen on me. So I think he thought, get him out on loan, see how he goes, and jumped at the chance. And how did you find that, the old loan at Ayr United? I loved it. Again, it was, competitive football. Yeah, competitive football. You had fans coming to your game. You had seasoned professionals that had either, fallen off the wayside or, kind of finishing off their career. And it was a great little club. Good team spirit, good manager, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable time. How did you find Brian Reid? Yeah, he was good. He was good like that. It was a first team environment, so it was a lot different from 19s. And he's a hard guy, isn't he, Brian Reid? Yeah, he's a big. Tough on you. Big, yeah, he was quite tough. I think I signed on the Monday, and he threw me straight in on Tuesday night. And I remember he brought me into his office, before the game, and I wasn't sure. I hadn't met any of the players, so I was thinking I'll maybe be on the bench or in the stands, see how it goes, and then play on Saturday. And he's like, chucking you right in here. You're meant to be a big player from Hearts. Go out and show it. This should be above your level. I want you to go out and dominate the game. And I remember we had Dundee, so they were still in that league, and they had Griffiths. They had a good team, Harkins. And he was like, I want you to go out there and dominate that midfield. And I remember thinking, oh Jesus, I don't know if I can. This is a totally different. Don't know any of the boys' names. And he's like, it'll be you and Steve-O in the midfield. And he's like, Steve-O's got tats everywhere. Tats all over. Yeah, it was Ryan Stevenson. So I remember walking into the change rooms going, right, need to look for the guy with the tattoos. And then there's Steve-O, literally head to toe in tattoos. I'm like, okay, he's my centre midfield partner. And thankfully went out there, and me and Steve-O both scored, got a 2-2 draw, and that kind of, you're accepted in the change room straight away because of, the performance and how you played. And I probably got accepted a lot quicker at Ayr United because of being thrown straight in the team, and players thinking, all right, he can actually help us out here. Would you recommend going on loan to any young player at a big club? Yeah, I'd recommend it to everyone. I think you can get into your kind of 19s and reserves, and you think it's, you're playing well and you're playing against, first teamers that you think. But then when you've been in that age group, or when you're a little bit of a first teamer and the coach pulls you and says you're in the reserves, your mindset's, you're probably only playing at 70%. And I remember running around thinking, he's not very good. Played against Naismith once, Stephen Naismith. Remember when him and Ferguson done the thing at Rangers, and they got dropped to the bench. Right, okay. So they played in that reserve game. I remember thinking, he's all right, but he's playing for Scotland, and Ferguson played. I was thinking they're all right. And then a couple of years later, you play him at Ibrox. And the first team are they drop their standards for the reserves, and you lift your game. So I think going out to a first team environment, you can't beat that, and you definitely, the pressure of guys coming back from work. So Ayr was only part-time, so they were coming straight from work, straight to the game, being like, I need this win bonus at the weekend, or we can't lose this game, and just having that pressure that you don't get at 19s. You do video analysis of passing the ball out, and there's 10 people there, whereas if you go on Ayr, there's 12 people, but they're shouting at you. That's their club, and that's their their club really, and what they want from you is to win and good performances and get promoted or stay in the league.
Mm-hmm. You got relegated that season.
Yeah, I've got a good record of going to places.
But I think you've done quite well. Did you take great confidence going back to Hearts that you'd be going back to Hearts to play?
Yeah, I played 34, 35 games and...
so that'd have been the championship, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So the old Division 1 and, got Steve always moved to Hearts in January, which he's never thanked me for. And, done a lot of things like just playing, Tuesday, Saturday and grinding out games, having to go away. I'd never been, Brian Reid used to go, I want to draw. Do you mean? Like clean sheet, draw, as long as we don't lose this game. And at 19s, you never get that. You never go anywhere and play for a draw. So it's just little things like that in terms of, or, we can't win because, so-and-so's playing. We're not relying on another result, but you're thinking they're probably going to lose that game. So if we get a point, we're closer to them. Just all the things that happen.
Real football,
real football. And, it's a great eye-opener for any young player.
So you went back to Hearts and it was the Jet, Jim Jeffries in charge. Can you remember your first dealings with him? And Billy Brown as well, who...
Yeah, so because they were... part-time at Ayr, I used to train at Hearts, and Jim Jeffries kind of came in January or February, so I used to train with him during the week and then go and play at Ayr at the weekend. Right. So he had, at that time, I think if he could have maybe recalled me back towards the end of the season, he would have, but he was kind of thinking, get all your games in this year, and that when you come back pre-season, you'll kind of be right in my plans. And even his man management, I think we played Queen of the South one night, and him and Gary Locke were there, watching me on a Tuesday night, and before it was Shabba Laszlo, and he used to always think I played for Airdrie. So he would come in on the Monday and say, good win, and we just got beat, say 4-0, and I was like, no, I played for Ayr, and he's like, yeah, and just keep walking. I remember used to thinking, I always used to look after the games if Airdrie won, because Shabba would think he's doing well out on loan. But just little things like that, the Jet knew everyone, he knew where everyone played, and he had, sometimes on a Monday he would come in and have spoke to the opposition manager and be like, they were playing off you at the weekend. They said they got a lot of joy. I used to be like, I think I did all right. But he'd just plant that little seed, I don't want to hear that again. So next week I'd be like, first of all, checking if the Jet knew their opposition manager. But, just little things like that, just making sure that, I was on top of the game.
Kevin Kyle said that on the interview here. He said, Jim Jeffries always keep me on your toes.
Yeah, even that. Or, in training, he'd be like, I'm watching you, Tay. I'm thinking about you for the weekend. Say it was a Monday. And straight away, you're probably like, no, you're not. But that Monday, you're like, oh, fuck, maybe I am playing. So you start doing everything right, and Saturday comes, you're in the stand, but you've trained well all week, and he was really good at that kind of side of the game and getting into it.
So when loan at Ayr ended, did Jim Jeffries have a chat and say, listen, you're going to play next year?
He didn't. He just kind of said you're being content. He never used to say anyone would play. He used to say to Kev, unless you pull your finger out, you won't be playing.
Who's Kev?
Big Kevin Kyle. And then Kev used to be like, I'm fucking playing. Who are you talking to? But he was, really didn't want anyone resting on their laurels or. So
could you tell he liked you?
Yeah, I could tell that he liked me compared to some other, when certain managers like you, for maybe not the style you play, but how I went about my business or how I trained. And I think he was keen to give me an opportunity. He just wasn't too sure. A few games he used to play me centre mid. Easter Road came on at like left midfield. So he used to try and get me involved as much as possible with I think he used to see me as a centre back / right back, but just to get appearances and get used to sort of the SBL. That was, he used to just kind of throw me on anywhere.
We've had a few stories about him and Billy Brown together after games. Any good stories for us? Rants or?
I just remember pre-season we went away to Italy, and the Jet used to have this list, and it used to be the '98 Hearts Cup winning team, which was like his pinnacle. So we just used to have to do like a time trial run, and you'd come in, and afterwards, say you'd 3 minutes 30, and he'd come over to you and be like, Neil McCann did 3 minutes 20. And that was fucking 12 years ago. And you'd be like, all right, it's a bit different. And he'd be like, just naming all the '98 Cup winning teams, going, Stevie Fulton used to eat 15 pies, 2 minutes 20. And you guys are out here getting 3 minutes 30, 3 minutes 40. Again, run up a hill going, fucking Neil McCann. They must have been fit. But yeah, he was old school like that. He had all these times and all these runs that he used to do that, the success way back then. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong in that. That's
Good
just how he
upbringing
worked.
for you,
Yeah, that's just how he worked, and you know, he was successful for that and stuck to it.
So why were you then put on loan to Partick Thistle?
They were flying. We were flying at one point. I think we were second and third in the league, and wasn't getting the opportunities that I was maybe wanting to, and having previously been on loan and had a run of games, to then going back on the bench and getting 10 minutes here and then maybe playing a reserve game. I felt my fitness, when I was getting thrown in, I was a little bit off it.
You weren't ready.
So I think Ian McCall at the time was at Partick Thistle, and he called to, it was like that emergency loan. So I think it was only 3 months. And Jeffrey said, would you be interested in doing that? Just getting some, again, games in your belt, and then when you come back, you're a little bit sharper and a little bit fitter. And yeah, off I went to Partick Thistle for a couple of months. Fair
play, because some young players now, I feel, sitting on the bench are just happy to sit there, but you wanted to go on loan again to get more games.
Yeah, I just felt I wasn't doing myself justice, and I think a lot of boys get into that position where you train with the first team and you're sitting on the bench, but you're not getting your 90 minutes. And then, you know, if the game's Saturday, Tuesday, you end up, you kind of doing a day before a game, you're not exactly doing too much, then you have the game, then you're off. So you kind of maybe having 4 or 5 days of a 60-minute session, and you're just losing sharpness, losing fitness, and then when you do get chucked in, you're just off it. And you're not doing yourself any justice. And I was at that kind of stage in my career where if I couldn't have too many games where I was miles off it because contract was coming up, different managers at that time, you know, even first impressions for fans, they'd be like, not good enough, out you go. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, when I did get 3 or 4 games, that I was the best that I could be. And
that's an old head on young shoulders, by I was buzzing just being on the bench and going out every Saturday. How was Ian McCall for you?
Yeah, he was good. He was good. We had a very good team then. That's probably the one.
Who were some of the good players?
Jackie McNamara was there, Simon Donnelly, Chris Erskine, Paul Payton.
Paul Kearney?
Yeah, Paul Kearney was there.
What a man, eh?
Yeah, he was a great guy. Who else? Chris Doolan. Like that, I kind of left, and the following season they got promoted. But even at that time, you could tell that we were a couple of players off, you know, giving it a real good promotion push. And yeah, you know, a great change rooms that we had. And at that time, you could tell Jackie McNamara and Simon Donnelly were starting to take, you know, they used to sometimes take training Mondays and Tuesdays. And I used to travel in with Jackie from Edinburgh, because obviously Edinburgh, we used to just drive through. So even just, you know, picking his ear in the car in the mornings and on the way back. And yeah, he was a great guy, and probably one of the reasons why I joined Dundee United a few years later.
So see, that's the thing, the loan thing as well. People think you just go there to learn a bit on the field, but you might get lucky and get an older pro that you travel when you end up finding out so much about the game and how they prepare. It's great.
Even at Thistle, so it was sometimes if I played centre back or right back, Jackie would be right back. Alan Archibald, who's now the manager, was centre back. Paul Payton was in the midfield. Like, you're playing with players that have gone on to have a good career or are now managers, and they have that, you know, that wise head giving you little tricks of the trade and things that you don't get, you know, either staying at the first team or playing in the reserve. So yeah, like I said to you before, I'd recommend it to go for anyone.
So you returned at the end of the season, made your first start against Rangers at Ibrox. How was that?
Yeah, and I used to. Naismith was playing, and I remember
you thought
that reserve game, thinking, yeah, this will be all right. He was everywhere, running around. But yeah.
Do you remember getting told you were going to be starting?
I remember. I think it was like the Thursday. They were doing shape, and it was towards the end of the season. I think it was the last game of the season. And you're thinking, oh, maybe get a sniff here and there, and then someone went down with a hamstring injury, and they chucked me in centre mid. And I think, oh shit, centre mid, Ibrox. And I remember the Ibrox, Jeffries and Lee Wallace was playing in that, and they used to have to pass it back to Lee Wallace, and then Lee Wallace like launched it up the pitch.
From the start of the game?
From the start of the game.
And
I remember Jeffries just saying, just control the ball, pass it to Lee Wallace, get up on seconds, and that's you into the game. And then I remember starting the game and seeing Naismith, like obviously knowing what I was going to do. So I was thinking, oh no, I can't give it to Lee Wallace, or he intercepts it. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn out and play it to the other side, so it looks like everyone's going to go that way. So I was thinking in my head, you know, thinking, oh yeah, and everyone will be like, oh, he looks cool, calm, composing the ball. So I get the ball, go to play it to Lee Wallace, and Naismith goes and turn back, and Lee McCulloch just smashes me. They get the ball, have a shot, and it goes out for a corner. And Jim Jeffries and Billy Brown, there's 60,000 Ibrox, and I could hear those two. That fucking Aussie bastard! Just play it till he was. And Lee Wallace was my good mate, and he was just looking at me like this. Oh no,
what have you done?
You've had a stinker.
Did you recover? Did you recover after it? Did you have an all-night game?
We got beat 4-0, so no, probably not. But yeah, I remember the next time I got the ball, I just kept passing it. For the next 10, 15 minutes when your mind's frazzled, I just used to get it and just pass it and then just smash someone and just try and think of the good times and totally forget about it. I thought if I have a good end of the game, no one will remember it. But as soon as I walked on the bus after the game, everyone was thinking, what the fuck are you doing?
That's
just
amazing.
Pass it to Lee.
I love that. Although it finished 4-0, you started the next game, the first game of the next season. Why do you think that was?
A combination of a few things. Jamie Hamill was suspended, so he had signed in the summer from Kilmarnock as a kind of right-back centre midfielder, and I'd kind of done well pre-season. And Jeffrey said, well, you've played last year, you kind of know what it's about. Going to play a right-back, seen you at Ayr, know that you can play that position, and kind of going for a solid back four and try and get a positive result. And it was a good game.
Man of the match?
Yeah, got man of the match. But I lost possession. This is what Jeffries was good at. I lost possession for the goal. So afterwards at Sky, give you the man. It was Neil McCann, and everyone's like, oh, he did really well first start, and great start to the season. And I got back in the change rooms, and you're thinking, I'm going to have a really good season. Jeffries like, fucking giving the ball away, and they fucking gone down and scored. We would have won today. If you're fucking giving the ball away, what were you doing up there? I remember being like, oh yeah, you don't want to say anything back, but I remember thinking, I lost the ball 70 yards away. I think it was, say, Zaliukas wasn't picking up in the box. When you're thinking as a player, all the different things. I remember just being like, and he's like, well, that's it, Monday morning, we'll be working on that. You're not giving away the ball. We would have won today. 3 points up the road would have set us perfectly. Instead, we've got a draw. I remember just bringing us right back down to earth and just thinking, I'm still miles off where I need to be or where I need to perform.
Just keeping your feet on the ground.
Yeah, he's just really good at doing that. Even Temps, he used to just rip into Temps all the time. I think he'd won Young Player of the Year.
David Templeton.
Yeah, he won Young Player of the Year 2 months in a row. And he's like, it's only Young Player. There's only 7 of you playing. I remember Tim's being like, oh yeah, maybe true. He's just really good at bringing boys down.
In that team, when you first broke in, who were the good senior players then?
Andy Webster, Zaliukas, Lee Wallace, was towards the end, and then he went to Rangers. And then we had Ian Black, Rudy Scatchell, David Templeton, Kevin Kyle, Stephen Elliott. We had a really good team. Danny Granger, Jamie Hamill. You know, it was a really good group of boys that was that kind of helped us through that season.
Honestly, how funny was Kevin Kyle?
Oh, I watched on the show. That's exactly what he's like. Like just even in training, and he used to go out in training and be like, "I'm not going to perform today," and boys were like, "Come on, like we need you today." He's like, "You play in the Premier League. You play for big clubs. You've not played for big clubs. I'll decide when I want to train." He used to just be like that all the time. And Jeffries was probably the only one that he wasn't too sure about. Do you know what I mean? Like Jeffries used to rip into everyone else, but Kevin was probably the only one that kind of nipped back at him a few times. And
did they have a few ding-dongs?
Yeah, they kind of had like a love-hate relationship. Like Jeffries used to, come charging out of his box. He's like a big bear, shouting at Kevin Kyle, "Hold it up." And Kevin Kyle used to be like, when I was on the bench, he'd be like, "I'm the least of your worries. Sort them out."
I'm the least of your worries.
Shout back to the defence. And I'm taking amazing. A throw in, and you couldn't help but laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like, "Sort them out. Don't worry about me."
Oh, bro,
that's just what he was like, 24/7.
Amazing. Early on in the season, Jim loses his job.
Yeah.
You think that was fair?
At that stage, there was just decisions that were coming out left, right, and centre. I remember when I think we played Dundee United at home. We drew, and then he got the sack, I think, on the Monday. And I remember, when you start getting texts, is the gaffer away? Boys that are not really like teammates. So is Jeffries leaving? And then, BBC, like reporters start calling you, and then you get the text message, "Can everyone please report to Tynecastle at 1:30? I think it was in the afternoon. And you're thinking, oh yeah, he must be going. And I remember a lot of the boys were quite angry because he'd signed like that. Danny Granger, Hamill, Kevin Kyle hadn't been there long, Stephen Elliott. He'd signed a lot of the boys. and we actually got off to a reasonably good start. It was the back end of last season where we kind of tailed off a little bit. So we kind of thought it was a little bit unfair, but at that stage, you're a player. It's kind of out with your control, and then Paulo Sergio came in a couple of days later.
Did the Jet get a chance to say bye to the boys?
Yeah, I think he wasn't in the actual meeting that we had, but he was floating around Tynecastle at that stage and just said, that's part and parcel of football. He was kind of saying, I've inherited good boys, I've brought in good boys. You do have a good squad, so just make sure that you don't make it look bad on me by going out and performing badly. Show them that there were good signings that we brought in and have a good successful season, and we kind of did that at the end.
He sounds like a top man. We need to get him on the show. So Paulo Sergio turns up, suit on? First day?
Cardigan.
Okay.
Yeah. He came in with...
Breaking the mould.
Yeah, he came in with what I was talking about before. So he came in with like 3 or 4 guys in the background, and he's like, this is my team. So from now on, this is my team. And you're looking, and they all had like the suits on, smart dressed. You're thinking, well, I wonder if he gets sacked and this one gets promoted. That's what we were saying, that he'd get promoted. But yeah, he was probably, for professionalism and changing a lot of things around the club, we kind of went from old school to, a whole new different wave of training and how he went about things.
So what sort of stuff would he change? Food?
So straight away, your Wednesday day off was gone. So he's like, his kind of thing was, I can't believe you train on a Wednesday. That's like your middle of the week. That should be your highest performance sessions, and then you kind of tail it off. So he just trained. So you were in for recovery on the Sunday, off Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday was your hard days. Thursday you kind of slacked off, and Friday. But even just his organisation. So every day before training we had like a board up, and he'd put up a piece of paper, and it was literally every detail of what you're going to do. So it would be warm up 7 to 8 minutes long, and then boxes for 7 minutes, and it would have like on the piece of paper the pitch. So there's like 4 different pitches. So the warm up, it would show you whereabouts in the pitch your boxes were going to be, and then it would be like possession, and it would have red bibs. So it'd be like me, you, so and so, so and so, so and so. Yellow bibs, orange bibs. So you knew as soon as you were out there what bib to pick up, what you were doing, what you're moving. And then it was like crossing and finishing drills. It wouldn't be like, right, left footers out there, strike. It was...
The names were up,
there were your positions, there were your cones, and then then it would be like 5-10 minutes that way, and then you'd change. So sometimes I would be crossing, and then the second one you'd look for your name, and you were a midfielder passing it in. Wow. And he was every single day. And
did you like that as a young player?
Yeah, used to like it, because there was a few boys, the younger boys, which I used to not like. When you're younger and you're not sure if you're training with the first team or not. So, your youth team manager would be like, go ask, the gaffer if you're training. And you'd be like, in the corridor, gaffer, am I training with you today or not? And all the older boys would be like, gaffer, am I training or not? That was just, you knew straight away. So before you came into training, you knew if you were training with the first team or not, who was in or not. But then it caused a few issues, because you could almost tell the team. So say we're doing shape, you could kind of tell the team before you went out. So there was a few boys in the warm-up or possession, if they weren't, say, starting on the Friday, they knew that they weren't going to be playing, or they maybe knew on the Tuesday. So there's a few issues that came because, before, like a few boys before training would go up to the gaffer and be like, why am I not playing? Whereas nowadays, or with Jeffries, it was after training, you'd have to go see the gaffer. And only by that you'd scoot off. And
was he quite approachable, Paulo Sergio?
Yeah, he was. He was a really good manager. But at that stage, it wasn't too much football-wise. There was obviously a lot of issues off the pitch, which probably brought us closer together, because sometimes we'd come into training and boys' heads were gone, regarding like not being paid or what's going on with contracts. So he was quite good at, sometimes he used to just scrap the piece of paper and we'd just maybe play 5v5s or 5 around that, and just have a bit of a fun session to get everyone's spirits up. And he was quite good with that in terms of everything that was going on around the club, keeping us quite focused.
How hard is that as players when boys aren't getting paid? Is it that difficult? Because you hear results not going well because of things up in the background. Does that happen?
It can do. Again, I was a young boy. I think I was only 20 at the time, so I didn't really have a house, didn't have a mortgage, didn't have car. and people sometimes forget, they're like, oh, you know, you're playing for Hearts, big club, but you're not on, you know, 10 grand, 20 grand a week.
That's when you go to China, you get
But you're only on, you know, a couple of grand max, and that's the big players, and they probably have families and mortgages, and if you go, I think we went 12, 13 weeks without being paid, you know, you're dipping right into your savings, and you know, it's like some boys don't even have any savings.
Trying to say I'm skint, like?
No, some boys don't have any savings. So yeah, it was probably about the 7 or 8 week mark that a few of the older players
started to affect them.
No, it didn't start to affect. We just had a meeting as a squad, and we came up with a list. So we went to the club and said, because the money was getting drip fed, and we came up with a list that we made as a team of when the money comes in, this is who it goes to first, second, third, fourth. So as they could kind of say, we could give you, like sometimes we could give you 80 quid or 90 quid this Thursday, and then the rest of your money the following Wednesday. And that would be everyone. So everyone would be getting paid 90 quid on Thursday, and then the rest of their salaries 2 weeks later, because the money was getting drip fed in. So we came up with that system of, listen, pay Ferry first, because he needs the money the most, then me, then Kevin Kyle, then, do you know what I mean? So we came to that list of...
And who's it you were communicating with? Chief exec or manager?
Again, that was another issue. We just kind of had like Claire Cowan, who was like the PR lady. We had people that were facing the issues that weren't anything to do with the issues, and that got on a few boys' nerves, because we'd want to see, you know, Romanov or someone high up close to him to say, hey, listen, what's going on? We're the ones that are getting, you know, not paid and all the issues with, and they would kind of send in a few, you know, people that shouldn't have really been handling those issues.
Is it hard to play for, going to Saturday and try your hardest for people who you know are taking the piss and not paying you?
Not so much that, because, you know, we had such a good support, and, you know, Tynecastle was a great place to play, and it does go out the window in that 90 minutes, but, you know, it was in a few boys' heads of being like, you know, what happens if I break my knee and need an operation? They're not going to pay it, and they've not spoke to me about a contract next year, and I'm not getting paid. So, you know, my missus would have to take time off work, and she's taken up extra shifts. It does cause a lot of unneeded stress on relationships, on players, and it kind of takes the focus away of 90 minutes on a Saturday. How
good is the Hearts fans in that atmosphere at Tynecastle? It's famous.
Yeah, yeah, they're great. You know, I have a great sort of rapport with them, and I used to love it. You know, even away games, used to take a good support away in away games, and yeah, you know, I lived in Diggs as growing up with a mad Hearts fan. She's used to not miss a game, and she used to go to all the games, and I used to see how much results affected her, you know, around the house, and she just loved it. And like all of her friends, you know what it's like, they just go, like White Hart Lane, she was on the day the draw came, looking up hotels in London, organising everything. So yeah, I got a real good insight into how much it means to people, and yeah, just have a really good rapport with them, and you know, Tynecastle, they create such a good atmosphere that it's a pleasure to play in front of.
See, when the atmosphere is that good, do you always fancy, even when it is a Spurs or a Liverpool or a Celtic or Rangers, do you always fancy yourself to get a result with the fans behind you?
Yeah, I think even Jim Jeffries and Gary Locke, they used to be big on it. They used to be first 10, 15 minutes, make sure that, like they used to say to me, obviously I'm not going to do a pass, or just go smash someone, first 10, or go like chase a lost cause, or start a fight if we hadn't got off to a good start, and get the fans on your side, and used to really play on those kind of things, and get the fans on your side, because they are such a help when they're right behind you. And I think even the start of this season, you know, they've got off to such a good start that you know, it shows what a difference it makes in that little 10% confidence you get when you're playing at home. One
guy who loved the fans and fans loved was Rudy Scatchell. How good was he?
Yeah, he was really good. He's got one of the sweetest left foots strikes that you know, obviously everyone's seen it at Hearts, but even at training, he used to just score rockets in training. But he used to practice all the time, even after training and that, he used to just get the young boys to ping it out to him at the edge of the box. He'd take a touch and just hit it. And he wouldn't put a goalie in, he just used to continually hit the target. And if you missed the target, it would only be by, you know, a couple of inches. And he used to just kind of say, if you hit it hard enough and the keeper saves it and holds it, he says, you're still going to get a clap. And they're still going to shout, Rudy, Rudy. He's like, if you blow it, you know, put it miles over the bar, everyone's going to go, oh, and be
So just hitting the target.
Just hit the target, mate. Keep a save it. And he goes, I think Chris Boyd said it once as well. If you aim for the keeper, chances are you're not actually going to hit the keeper. It's only going to go either side. So it's going to make them save it. I think that's just what he used to do. Just hit it as hard as he can. And because he used to do it every day, repetition, he used to just get it on perfect. And 9 times out of 10, it probably went in.
Was he a good guy?
Yeah, he was a good guy. He was quiet, quite reserved. Like the most he ever used to talk or be animated was probably Tynecastle when he was waving to all the fans and talking to all the fans. But yeah, he was a really good guy to have around the change rooms and good professional. You know, he's coming towards the end of his time, but you know, his body fats and how he kept himself and in the gym was, it was really good.
Big game player. Talking about big games, you scored your first goal for Hearts in an Edinburgh derby.
Yeah.
Can you remember it?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, should have been sent off later. I got a 2-game.
What was that for? Sproul?
Headbutted Sproul. Yeah. After...
You got second prizes, did you know?
Yeah, I got a second prize and just got caught up in it and just gave him one of those. And then, you know, as soon as you do it, you go, I didn't do it. Just praying that the ref didn't do anything. But it would have been better if the ref gave me a yellow. I wouldn't have got that ban. You know, when you get a yellow, they can't ban you after it.
Right.
But he didn't give me anything. And then that officer person.
Oh, right, so they can look back on it
yeah,
again. But anyway, the goal, talk us through that.
It was a screamer. Have you seen it?
No.
It's from literally about that far out. I stole, I think it was Webby's goal or something. Just steal goals for Hearts. But it was, yeah, we just set up and my role was to kind of block and get to the back post and feed off kind of scraps. And it was just the start of the second half and it was 0-0. I think it's Webster headers it and keeper spills it and it just quickly tap it in. And yeah, I'd been in Easter Road as a fan, you know, plenty of times and loved those atmospheres and know how much it means. Yeah, I just used to go to the games, used to get bombed from the squad, or when I was on loan for Air, used to, you know, you love those games and a few drinks with my mates and go in the stands. So I remember being on that side and, you know, a lot of my mates had me first goal scorer and because I was 50, 60 to 1. So yeah, it was good to get that goal at Easter Road in front of the Hearts fans as well. And it was, I think we went on to win 3-1, which was good.
At that time, there was a real hatred between the two teams. Was that spoken about in the build-up to games? Yeah,
it was and it wasn't because we had Paulo Sergio, who wasn't that. He used to be like football. But then you had Gary Locke, who's a die-hard. You can't meet a bigger Hearts fan. So sometimes Paulo Sergio used to be like, don't play the occasion, you know, like keep playing the way you're playing and walk off. And Locke would be like, fucking smash those bastards. If you fucking take out the back, fucking smash them, make sure they know. So you had that kind of half balance of knowing what it meant and then trying to play football. And I think that season, they didn't beat us at all. I think we drew a couple. And at that time, even with Jeffries, we had I wouldn't say a stronghold on them, but when we weren't playing well or they were on top, we just always felt that we were going to get a goal or just a sucker punch and just kind of not bring them back down. But I think even one of the seasons they were right up there and we were struggling and we used to get results off them and yeah, they were just great games to play in.
Was there a certain player that used to relish battling against in the derbies?
Obviously Sproul a few times, and at that I was kind of playing left back at points. He used to be on the right. So yeah, I liked him, and then later on, like Griffiths came, so he's a big Hibby.
Would you just give each other a bit during games?
A little bit, but like that, he had played at. We had kind of gone through, you know. So when I was at Air, he was at Dundee, and then we got to play each other at Hearts and Hibs, and then he went to Celtic, and I went to Dundee United. So we've played each other. He's gone up, and I've gone down. We played each other a few times, but yeah, he was a good one to play against. But yeah, it was more just Louis Stevenson. He was a left back, but he's just a nice guy. He didn't really mind him too much. But yeah, it was more just of making sure that you weren't losing those kind of games. Because
I always remember you being quite angry in derbies.
Yeah, they're just because there's so much riding on them. You know, you just don't want to lose. I think that's the biggest thing. And even for Hearts fans, I think if you win a derby, it gives yourself 3 or 4 bad performances before they maybe get on your back, and you know, and then scoring in them, you get 5 or 6. So I think I knew how important it was.
You usually need that.
Yeah, so I needed a win and a goal, hoping that it gets me to the next game. But yeah, that's it's just so important to the club, and it's just the bragging rights, and fans love it. So it was important not to get beaten and keep those bragging rights.
Brilliant. Scottish Cup, we'll talk about now. So he's doing great, and then you get Celtic in the semi-finals. Again, were you confident of beating Celtic?
Probably not. I don't think we'd played that well against them, to be honest. And then Hibs played Aberdeen on the Saturday, and Hibs won. So Hibs were in the final. So that obviously brings its own added pressure of, you know, if you win, you've got Hibs in the final, and you don't really want to lose because then you've had that chance of possibly beating them. So, yeah, we were a little bit nervous, but we had from as soon as the semi-final came out, Paulo Sergio kind of worked on not a formation or a game plan, but he was so rigid and knew what we were going to do that if the longer the game went with that game plan, I think the more belief we got. And even with the players he played like young Robertson on the right. So I think we played like a 4-5-1. And he just kind of played, he didn't hang them out to dry as such, but he said 45 minutes of buzzing around, being as busy as you can, and then we're probably going to bring on Beattie and change the formation, and they won't be expecting that, and then we'll try and nick a goal there. So the whole plan was get to half-time, 0-0, and then we can bring players on to change the game and try and do it. And it actually worked perfectly. Beattie came on at half-time and Rudy scored straight away, and yeah, it was just one of those games. I think they missed a few sitters, and yeah, we're lucky enough to win.
Did you love the big occasions playing for Hearts? The semi-finals and the derby? You relished them?
Yeah, I was quite lucky. You know, looking back on my Hearts career, you know, say the last 10 years, Hearts fans say their best kind of games. I think I'd be involved in most of them, like that White Hart Lane, Anfield against Liverpool, semi-finals, cup finals, the derbies. Most of the derbies we won. So a lot of, you know, good memories from Hearts big games the last 10 years I was involved in, and yeah, we had a kind of a sense that season of, on the big occasions, we had players that could score goals and win us the game.
And Hearts get the penalty. Was it Beattie always the man that was going to take it, or did he just take it upon himself?
He was and he wasn't, because we were struggling for penalties. We'd missed a few. So Hamill used to take them and he got injured. Granger took a couple, missed a couple. Scatchell didn't like penalties for some reason. Because he would
say, I don't want the penalties?
Yeah, he used to just kind of be like, don't really fancy it. And then the day before we'd worked on penalties. This is what Sergio used to make. He made us take 7 penalties in a row. So and we had to walk from the halfway line. So the day before the game, we had to do the whole walk in case it went to penalties, because he was kind of not playing for a draw, but would have been happy with a draw and taking them to pens. So you had to do that, take a pen, and then walk back. So it took us like 40 minutes by the time everyone walked down. And Beats was really good, straight down the middle. So when we got the penalty, I was buzzing, thinking, I fancy him. It was last minute, so I'm like, I think it was Fraser Forster in goals. He's going to have to dive. So as long as he gets enough height on it, he's going to score. So I was relatively confident he was going to score. But the other funny thing a few people spoke to me about is, so a few boys were on yellow cards, and Paulo Sergio was saying, do not get a stupid yellow for celebrating or, you know, dissent, and you end up missing the final. And Darren Barr and a few of the boys were on yellow cards. So when Beattie scores, you can watch it back later, Beattie scores and he goes off the pitch, and Darren Barr's on a yellow and he's chasing Beats, and then it's almost like he sees the line and just puts the brakes on, stops and doesn't go. And I remember thinking, I'm not on a yellow. I'm gone as well. And I just followed, just chased Beattie around, and for ages, like, people always tweet me, like, have you ever caught Beattie, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was just a great, you don't expect to get a penalty against Celtic in the last minute, and then to score it knowing that you're going to play Hibs, and yeah, it was just a great day, great night, great Monday. It was a great couple of few days.
Did Jen Craig Beattie's the palest guy ever take his top off at Hamden?
Yeah, I think
Did he get sticks for the celebration?
I think he seriously regretted it as soon as he got in the change rooms.
Well, I expected him to have a better body than that big Beats, eh?
No, he's just got that, I don't know what it is. It's just the big...
unnatural strength in it. How was the celebrations after it? Brilliant.
Yeah, it was good. So obviously the whole city was buzzing because Hibs had obviously made the cup final. We had made the cup final, and yeah, a few of us went back. And it was an early kick-off, which we don't normally get. So we were back in Edinburgh for like 4 or 5 o'clock. So a few of the younger ones at the time went out. And
any of the older ones now?
Yeah, a few of the older ones. There was probably 10, 12 of us that went out in Edinburgh, and we were off on the Monday. So yeah, had a good little drink.
See, Paulo Sergio being the reserve guy, after a game like that, would he be going mad in the dressing room celebrating, or would he still always be calm and cool? Yeah,
he was quite calm. Locke was probably the one that I didn't expect, we walked into the change rooms and I think it just kind of hit him that we're going to play Hibs in a cup final. I remember him being like, yeah, it was great, great win, but fucking can't lose the final. And I remember everyone being like, yeah, shit, this is going to be a massive game. And even on the bus on the way back, we're thinking, wow, this is going to be huge. Hibs hadn't won it in like 115, 16 years at the time, and we hadn't won it in a while, and just thinking, oh, this is going to be a massive game. And Sergio used to keep, again, like with Locke and Sergio, used to be like, right, next game is the most important. And Locke behind would be like, cup final. Cup final.
Brilliant, eh?
So he was...
see, just on that, was there a real expectation of this will be amazing if I win it, but also on the other side you're thinking if we lose this it'll be horrible?
Yeah.
Would the boys speak about that amongst themselves?
We used to be like, we do not want to be the team that is known as the team that's lost to Hibs in the cup final, because it's like they've eventually won it, but they beat us. They beat them. I think they beat Hearts in the third or fourth round. So they create their own memories later on, semi-finals and finals. Whereas that final, imagine, for example, I used to think if I give away a pen and Griffiths scores and they win 1-0, no matter what I do for Hearts, Hibs fans or everyone would be like, gave away the pen, didn't you, big fella? Huh? And I couldn't. That would just drive me crazy, being like, but in football, these things can happen. It could be it wasn't a pen and it's given as a pen. And they had Griffiths and O'Connor at that time that were doing well. And we used to always worry about if it's just one of those games that Griffiths puts one in the top corner and you can't score, and the bloody bastards go on and beat you 1-0. Do you know what I mean? And you're remembered as the team that's lost to them. And I think a lot of that was riding on it, leading up to it.
So a lead up to a big game, it's more the mental side that bothers you.
Yeah, well, it was probably, again, Sergio was quite good in terms of he used to just he missed the whole. He just used to think Hibs is Hibs, and so he used to just be like, we've beaten them 4 or 5 times already this season. So if we just play as we've always played all season, we're going to win. And Locke used to be like, yeah, but there's just that chance that they might win. So let's make sure that we don't. So, we were right on it from pretty much from that semi-final. Was everyone's mind was on it. We used to go into games being like, don't lose this game. I think we played Aberdeen. We're like, right, kind of treat this as a cup final and don't lose it. And then we played Celtic the week before the cup final. And I remember Sergio being like, right, it's a big game, they won the league, so it was going to be a good atmosphere. Let's try and keep it 0-0 and play it like a cup final.
Loves a 0-0.
Yeah, loves it. We got beat 5-0. So everyone was like, yeah, maybe not a good confidence booster, but yeah, that whole game took care of itself. But people forget how much of a big build-up it was before the game.
See, the week leading up, how soon do you know that you're playing on it?
I was kind of quietly confident because he hadn't really changed the back four in the midfield. So there's only kind of a few positions that he wasn't too sure on and he was going to chop and change. But probably from the Tuesday, he had kind of locked it in, or you could kind of guess the starting 11. And then it became the whole no one knows because it's obviously Edinburgh. So we would have loads of fans turning up to games. You didn't know if they're Hibs fans or Hearts fans. So rumours going around that so-and-so's starting. So then I think Thursday or Friday, Sergio started throwing boys in different positions. I think we trained as a back three for a little bit while the cameras were out, and a few little mind games of, so-and-so's sick and those kind of things. But we kind of knew probably on the Monday or Tuesday the starting 11 and what we were going to do. And
do you sleep all right the night before the final?
Yeah, slept quite well. We stayed away in the hotel the night before, and I think you just, as a player, you then just start knowing that you need to get your body right, you need to do the right things, and make sure you do all the things off the pitch to help you on the pitch.
Now, we spoke to big Gary O'Connor about that game, and he said that Hibs were in disarray. Was there a feeling amongst the Hearts players that they were in a bad way?
Yes and no. I listened to that interview. And obviously, I wasn't involved in it, but he was talking about things like bonuses, and they were moaning about bonuses. I think that our mindset at that stage wasn't about money or bonuses. We weren't getting paid anyway, so it didn't matter what bonuses they were going to give us. But we were just like, this will be history for us. This will be like what it is just now. Anytime we go back, I think we went back a couple of weeks ago. some of the players that have played, we're treated as heroes and kings, and people still talk to us about it this day. And I think we had that, drained into us that, this is a game that can change your career, it can change your life, it can, you can be remembered for so long. So I think we weren't really worried too much about formations or tactics or who wasn't playing or bonuses. We were more worried about, let's go out there, first and foremost, win the game and create some moments and become heroes.
The game itself, 2 up early in the first half, and then Hibs score just before half time. That must have pissed you off because you were in control of the game, weren't you?
Yeah, I think McPake cleared one off the line to make it 3-0, and then they've gone up and scored. And you start getting that, we've just battered them for 45 minutes and we're still only 2-1 ahead. But again, like Sergio just calmed us all down and was like, you keep playing this way, we're going to create more chances. They hadn't really had many chances. And we had some good players on the bench. We had Beattie on the bench. So we had a few players that if it become 2-2, we could change it. We changed formations. He spoke about changing formations if so-and-so came on. So, yeah, we were annoyed at conceding the goal, but we also knew that if we continued to play the way we were playing, we would probably go out and win the game.
So you were 3-1 up, and then the big boy makes it 4-1. How was that? Best feeling?
Unbelievable feeling. It's still, even now I get sent it all the time, it's still goosebumps. I wish I did a bit of a better celebration, but like that, I think it was just all of the build-up, all of the tension is just, because again at half-time, even Hearts fans would be like, it's only 2-1, Granger scores straight away, and then I score, so I think it's 50 minutes, and we're 4-1 up and they're down to 10 men, and I remember when I scored just thinking, that's it, we've won it. There's no way they're coming back here, and it was just an unbelievable feeling. And
then it goes 5-1, it's party time. Are you saying amongst each other on the pitch, we've won the cup?
Yeah, well, I was kind of saying it as soon as I scored that we'd won it. But yeah, you always get, it could have been more. Like, why did you not go, to get 7, 8, 9? Yeah, Hearts fans are right on you. Like, we told not to stop scoring, and it wasn't as if we stopped scoring. We just they kind of shut up shop, and they were a good team at the time. But yeah, we was just got in that formation. It was good. It was a good game to be able to, the last 20, 30 minutes, all their fans were leaving, our fans were loving it. It was like that party atmosphere, and it was probably one of the only games that you could really soak up the atmosphere.
Would that have been the highlight of your career?
Yeah, it's probably club career. It's definitely been up there, obviously playing for the national team, and that's good. But yeah, for club-wise, I don't think there's many more moments that could beat, beating your biggest rivals 5-1 and getting on the score sheet.
Paid at the end of the month in China's up there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, at least getting paid. Getting paid is a good thing.
But the open top bus parade in Edinburgh, how special was that? Was it anyone drinking Sol Bambas?
Oh, it was... That was a good one from him, wasn't it? Yeah, that was messy. That was a messy day. Yeah, so again, like, we had a thing at Tynecastle after the game, but before a cup final, it's you kind of like win, lose, we'll come back here, but no one really wants to think about it if you lose. So that didn't end up finishing till like 5, 6 in the morning, and then had to go home, get to like taxi home, get your different polo on, and we had to go to the Chambers in Edinburgh. Right. And it was just boys throwing up in the toilet, like people hadn't slept. You only had I think I only had an hour, 2 hours sleep, and Sergio's coming around taking like bottles off boys because boys are straight. He's just like, wait until we speak to all the fancy people that don't even care about football, and then we get on the bus. Locke is just smashed. He's just loving life. He's just like. Sergio's taking the beer off him and walking off, and he's just sliding you another one. Just being like, no one throw up over the bus. That was a big thing. Don't throw up on the bus.
So would Palon even enjoy a beer with the boys now?
Yeah, well, but the night before, he was on we had karaoke. He was on the karaoke.
What was his song?
Some Portuguese song. Everyone was just like, it's your gaffer. You're like, good one.
Beat it.
Good song. Get off.
Let's go mental.
But yeah, it was good. Even
great
the parade.
Memories, mate,
the parade was great, and. Yeah, even the Sunday night was really good. Went to Locke, got a place in Bonnyrigg.
Lockie's the man, isn't he?
Yeah, and he invited a few of us boys up, and we went to this like community club, and it was unbelievable. Honestly, it was one of the best nights I've ever had. He literally called us, being like, a couple of my mates are here, the Scottish Cup's here. It's just Hearts fans, so you won't get any bother. Come up and have a few drinks, because like that town was a bit.
Mixed,
he didn't really know what to do. So we went up to Woodburn Club, it's called, and honestly, you walked in and everyone realised it was me and Danny Granger and a couple of the young boys. And Locke had got us from the front door. And as soon as they realised it was, we crowd surfed from the door. This is how packed it was. They crowd surfed us all the way down to this table where it was just full of drink. And they're like, that's for you. And people just coming up, just putting drinks on you, taking shots. It was like a free bar. It was literally like a rebel club, just going mental for until it was like 3 a.m. and they just shut the doors and we just stayed in there. It was,
all night,
It was unbelievable. It was one
amazing
of the best
memories,
nights.
mate.
Yeah, it was a great night.
Next year, drawing Liverpool in the Europa Cup, wasn't it? Europa League?
Europa League, yeah.
See, when you get drawn a team against Liverpool, is it excitement or is it a wee bit of, oof, we could get our arse felt here?
It's a bit of both because it's that last game before the Europa League. So you don't want to play like a quality team that no one hears of and get spanked 6-7-0 and be out. You'd rather maybe have a glamour tie. So you kind of want to, because the chances of us actually going to the Europa League, because that squad that won the cup final got ripped out. So we're kind of left with probably a not as good team as the cup final team. So we were just kind of being like, yeah, we'd love to have Liverpool. And Liverpool were just starting to become, I think Rodgers, it was
Brendan Rodgers,
he had just gone there, so they'd signed spent a bit of money. So yeah, as soon as Liverpool came out, we were thinking this is going to be great, but we didn't want to have a 5-0 against Spurs in the first leg and ruin the second leg. So it was, again, it was a big game to play, and we lost 1-0 at home and then drew away 1-1.
Yeah. How was Anfield?
Anfield was great. Yeah, it was really good. Again, I think there was a huge amount of Hearts fans that travelled down, and Pepe Reina scored. Temps tries to claim it, but he really Temps didn't really score. He loves thinking that he scored, but he scored, and like that we were thinking it's gone to extra time, and then Suarez scored at the end to go out on away goals, which is, on reflection, not really too bad a result.
How good was Suarez?
Yeah, they were good. So they kind of sent up like a Diddy team, really, in the first leg, and we lost 1-0. And then they brought a few of their big boys back for the second leg because they were a little bit, not that they were struggling as such, but I don't think they'd go off to a great start in the Premier League. Right, so they put Suarez, Gerrard, a few of the boys in, and it was one of those games that, if we got to extra time, it would have been interesting to see what happened. We probably still would have lost, but it would have been good to hold on and take them to extra time. That
summer, though, I just thought you were going to go to Rangers. Talk us through that. Why did it not happen?
It was literally right after the Anfield game. So we drove back and I almost missed it, really. We obviously had a big night before, and I'd gone for a nap and woke up and had about 15 missed calls from my agent, from David Sutherland, who was like the CEO at Hearts. When you're just getting a few phone calls, you're like, why are they? Thinking, cup final, what have I done?
And that club in Bonnie.
What's happened there? But Cornan called my agent, and he's like, Rangers have put a bid in and Hearts have accepted it. You've got permission to go speak to Rangers. And initially I'd just broken into the national team, and we were like 18 months from a World Cup, and Rangers had just gone down to 3rd division, and I was thinking, I'm not too sure if I'm that keen on it. So called my agent up and said, not really interested in it, to be honest. I'd rather just stay at Hearts and maybe go somewhere in January. I was thinking Championship or somewhere down south.
Back to Erin now, Scottish Championship.
Yeah. Ayr or Thistle were looking for someone. And then got a call back from the CEO at Hearts, being like, they've upped the bid and we've accepted it, and with our financials position, blah, 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 maybe go have a chat with them. Reading between the lines, thinking,
need to go.
You kind of need to go. And then had a phone call from Ali McCoist, who's couldn't have been any nicer. He's like, I know, like you've said no, but let's just meet. I want to speak to you about it. I know you have a few doubts, but come meet me at Hart Hill Services and we'll have a chat there and see if I want to meet you in person and tell us. So we're driving down to Hart Hill, and we're just getting close to Hart Hill, and McCoist calls again. He's like, I can't make it to Hart Hill, just come to Murray Park and we'll get everything sorted there. So I told my brother and a few of my mates, I've rejected Rangers, I'm not going to go just going to stay at Hearts. Next thing, it's obviously on Sky Sports, me driving in to Murray Park. There's all Rangers fans, like, welcome to Rangers. Thinking, oh no, this has become 10 times harder. Yeah, it's become 10 times harder. And McCoist is like, I know you're not signing, but I just want to speak to you because if I don't sign you this window, I'd still be interested in signing you in January. Had kind of played it along that line. So I got there, and you know what he's like right in, like, welcome, this is the most successful club in the world, look at it, this is where you could be, welcome home, showing me around Murray Park. He's like, I know you're not keen on signing, but we'll get something sorted out. One of those ones. It just wasn't letting me leave. Got up the stairs and there's Temps. So Temps had just obviously signed. And he was like, are you signing? And I remember just being like, you know, stressing out. My phone had died. And I didn't want to ask McCoist.
For a charger?
For a charger. Do you have a charger? So I couldn't really like speak to anyone at that point.
For
being
that
like,
advice or
yeah,
that?
just being like, what do you think? My mum was with me at the time. And the whole trip down, I'd said to Mum, listen, no matter what they say, what they offer, anything they do, I don't think I should sign and I don't want to sign. So McCoist is like charming, he's chatting away, being like,
starting to fancy me.
Yeah, being like, you know, we can organise flights over. So my mum's big on flights, you know, organise flights over and you can come stay in Glasgow and Ibrox, you get your own little room, and giving it all this. And so we sit down and McCoist's like, I'll give you some time to think and go out the room. So I turned to Mum and Mum was like, I think you should sign. I would sign. I'd be like, Mum, listen, it's not happening, we're not signing. I can't do it. I've just broken into the national team. I've already played like that in air and played around, and I just thought it would be great to play for him. It would be, it's an unbelievable opportunity. It's a huge club, but in my mind, I was thinking next pre-season I'd be coming back, and we would only have got promoted. It would be in the second, and then I'd have another year, and the following pre-season I'd be coming back, and we'd be in the championship. And I've already played there, and I've lost 2 years of, good money and playing for a big club, but at that stage in my career, I was, looking for China. No, but I was looking for, something a little bit. It just didn't. I didn't have that feeling when I first heard that phone call. So it was a little bit awkward when McCoist came back in. But I think he knew as soon as he'd met me that it was going to be a hard task to try and make me sign. But yeah, he couldn't have been any nicer, and still have a kind of good relationship with him now.
And it takes a strong person to be shown around Murray Park. Charming manager, your mum.
Yeah, even like he was saying that they'd spoken to the board, and remember it was like the whole league reconstruction, and he's like, so it's only going to be one season, then it's going to be a league reconstruction, and so we'll be up quicker than the 3 years, and still going to win the cups, so we'd be in Europe. He obviously knows what he was talking about, and he put it on thick, but. Yeah, my big thing was I just broke into the national team. It took me so long to get into the national team that I didn't want to throw all that away by taking a few steps back, which I thought in my mind.
So how did Hearts take it when you told them that you're not going? Is that you?
Yeah, so they went. So then I was thinking, I was on the way back, got my charger on, just seeing all these messages being like, you're signing, you're not signing. And then John McGlynn called, being like, so he was the manager at the time, is it true, did you reject Rangers? I was like, yeah. And he went, ooh. And I've been like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'm just worried that I'm now going to be told you can't play. Because we had a few situations with Zaliukas and a few boys that they wanted rid of, and they're on good money, and they're like not playing them anymore.
Trying to force them to leave, basically.
Yeah, trying to force them to leave. And he's like, I just really don't want that to happen to you. And I remember just thinking, at that stage, my relationship with the fans was at the peak. I just rejected Rangers, so it had gone up even more. They would be not silly to do it, but there would have been a huge outcry because everyone would have realised the only reason I wasn't playing was because I rejected Rangers, which in a lot of Hearts fans' views was one of the best things I did when I was there. So that was a big thing for them. And I remember the next day, David Sutherland came in and he's like, so what are you thinking? And I was like, well, I'm happy here, I'm comfortable here, wouldn't mind signing a new contract because I only had that season left. I'm looking to buy a house, like my younger brother was there, I'm really settled, got good friends. He's like, we can't offer you a new contract, we can't do that. The only thing we'd offer you was the same terms and an extra 6 months, hoping that you get a move in January. So then it became a little bit of you're off to the highest bidder in January and we need the money, so. off to China I went.
So China, you've been so honest. You're going to tell us, was the money just too good to turn down?
Yeah, money was obviously too good to turn down, but it was also the highest bidder. I think Sheffield Wednesday were sniffing around. There was a few clubs down in England that were sniffing around, but they were more pre-contracts because I was coming into my last 6 months, and I think Shandong offered $500,000, I think, at the time. So that, you know, $500,000 for me is $500,000 too much. So they were like, that's perfect for us. And yeah, and off I went. And I knew going to China, it was a big club in China. We've played in the Asian Champions League, which is like the Champions League here, but obviously in Asia. And it's, but it's a big thing over there, and it's a big thing in Australia. So I knew I was going to be playing in those kind of games. So I made an educated guess that if I went there, it wasn't going to harm my international chances.
So see, when you're playing it seems like a lot of your thinking is behind being in the national team. Is that obviously a massive thing for you?
It was at that time. You know, I'd grown up wanting to play for Australia, and I think that's the kind of pinnacle of your career. It opens a lot of doors, being like a so-called internationalist, and I just love that environment of being in there and playing against, you know, strikers that that you watch. So yeah, a lot of my thinking, and we were so close to a World Cup. I think if it was maybe a year later down the line that Rangers came in, I would probably have went and said, not a problem. You know, played in the World Cup, had international experience. This is going to set me up, you know, in the future. It's a huge club, opens a lot of doors. You know, the timing of it all at that time just wasn't right, and that's why I didn't go. So
how was China? Did you have any nights out with Derek Reardon?
I'm surprised he got in China.
Did you see any of that, though?
I didn't see any of that, no. I missed those nights out that he's were on. But yeah, it's just a different culture. They just do things differently to here.
How did you find that culture? Would you find it quite easy to go into, or was it quite difficult?
Yeah, it was probably more difficult leaving Australia to go to Edinburgh at 16, 17 than it was, I think I was 21, going from Edinburgh to China. And they look after you a lot, not better, but I was a bit more of a senior player. They paid a bit of money for me, and you're only allowed 4 foreigners in China. So I had my driver, interpreter, a guy that kind of just followed me around training that helped me out. So
you've basically turned into a pal of
so yeah, I came into training with 3 little amigos that used to just chat away to me. But yeah, it was good. It was thoroughly enjoyable, and it was a different experience that, you know, I really liked.
Is the language barrier tough?
Yeah, team meetings were a slog. So we had a Portuguese manager, so he would talk in Portuguese, and then he had his interpreter that would put it into Chinese, and then my interpreter would put it into English. So it was a 20-minute meeting, went on for an hour, and the worst was a few times, you know, he was talking to you, you know, and then you just have to wait. But it's like that, or like he's looking at you, haven't said a question, and then the translator's talking, but you're trying to work out from his facial expression and his body language if it's going to be a good or bad thing. You know, you don't know what he's going to say.
And you can't really have an argument when it's second hand.
No, yeah, because it's just going back. And there's a few times I'm like, oh, this is... he's really angry at me here. And then your little translator will be like, you know, he thinks you could have got closer to the opponent because they scored. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not too sure that's exactly what he said, but I get the gist of it. I understand what you're saying.
How was it? How was the standard over there?
Yeah, it was quite good. Yeah, everyone asked me that, but you know, you play some top quality players over there. Played against Hulk, Oscar, Ramirez, Jackson Martinez. You know, all these players that, you know, you give them a chance and they tend to score. And because there's so much money there, Tevez, they bring these players over for, you know, huge amounts of money, and they have huge amount of pressure on having to score and having to get assists. So. Yeah, and then everyone like in Scotland says, oh, but it's only 2 or 3 players. But do you mean you put Tevez and Hulk in Dundee's team?
They win the league.
They maybe not win the league, but you know, they go away somewhere, and you're not thinking it's just Dundee. You're thinking these guys can score a few belters, and you lose 3 or 4-0. So those players up the standard and make it more difficult. Is
the pressure for fans and the club and the manager, is it the same as in Scotland, or is it less intense?
You have no idea. Yeah, because you don't understand. They could be...
So does that make it easier to play?
Yeah, a little bit easier. Do you know what I mean? Like the fans are shouting and chanting. They could have been saying whatever, and you're just walking over being like, thanks for coming out, guys. And they're probably slagging you and saying everything, but you just have no idea what they're saying.
Brilliant. 2014, mate, lived the dream. World Cup. when did you first know you were getting called up?
It was like the X Factor before the World Cup. So I think they took 33 players to Sydney, and it was about 2 weeks before we went to Brazil. And then every 3 or 4 days, 2 boys just left. So the tables were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then he took 27 to Brazil. And at that stage, I was like fringe. You know, I wasn't confident enough that I was in the squad. And I'm thinking, you know, you don't want to tell anyone. Everyone's like, oh, you're on the plane to Brazil. And I was right back, yeah, but there's still 3 or 4 players to be dropped because you don't want to be saying anything. And then, yeah, it was kind of injuries. Like Tom Rogic was struggling with an injury, so he missed that World Cup.
The boy, yeah.
Yeah, so he missed that World Cup, and a few players missed it from injury. So, yeah, kind of just got in the squad, I reckon. And then, again, like a few injuries happened during the tournament, and all of a sudden started playing all the games.
So did he come to you before the first game saying you're going to start the World Cup?
No, so I came on the first game.
Right.
So I kind of always knew I was like a fringe. Like, I feel I'm a really good team player. So I'm one of those players that not everyone hates, but, you know, like train well no matter what, good around the group, good around that. So I kind of knew my position in that team. So I thought, I'm not going to be a starter. I'm probably not going to be, I'm a right back / centre back. So unless someone gets injured, I'm not really going to be coming on. And start of the second half against Chile, the right back pulls his hammy, and then your heart starts going and thinking, right, I could be on here. And then, you know, when the manager looks to see who's on the bench and then obviously sees me and thinks, Jesus, are we going to have to bring him on or not? And then they're like, we've got no one else. On you go. So on I come, like buzzing, playing the World Cup. Next game, he's moved Mark Milligan, who's just joined Hibs. We're doing shape and he's playing right back. And so again, I'm thinking, listen, made an appearance at the World Cup.
I'm not caring.
Don't really care. He pulls his hamstring in training. So again, at training, it's the whole situation of, please tell me you don't have to play. McGowan again at right back. Please tell me, for God's sake. There must be someone. Do you mean Kitman's struggling with an injury? They're like, right, we're going to have to play him. And yeah, end up playing the next 2 games and get 3 appearances at a World Cup.
How good is the whole atmosphere and spectacle?
Yeah, it's just a whole different level. It's like we were staying in a small city and we had an open training session. It was like 15,000 that came to it. So obviously it's in Brazil. They're just crazy for football, and even when Brazil was playing the streets, yeah, you hear people say there was no one on the streets. There was literally no one on the streets. And when they scored, all the fireworks would go off and the place would go mental. And it was it was just a great achievement to be in the squad and be there, and amazing memories.
Brilliant. You're obviously very passionate about your country. It can be seen for the video you celebrating. What was that all about? Did you know you're being filmed? Yeah, so I'd obviously got a few of my mates over to watch. It must have been the first game of this World Cup against France. Not enough injuries for you to get in there?
I was injured as well.
Oh, right, okay.
So, yeah, what are you saying? So and the World Cup we just qualified, I was probably more involved in that than the previous one. So I think I was involved in like 22 of the games of 24. So I felt more closer to that. Yeah, probably more closer to that squad. You know, going to all the crazy places that we have to go to, Honduras in the playoff final, all of those stuff to get to that World Cup. That, you know, I probably would have went there and actually went to it, but it's just, you know, it's your holidays, you wanted to go off. So I just invited a few of the boys around, and then obviously when it was the penalty, I dressed up in my full kit, just to be one of those full kit wankers when they came in. So the boys were buzzing when they walked in, seeing me in my full kit. And then, you're probably more nervous watching it. So it was the penalty, it was to bring us back to 1-1, and I was just nervous, and one of the boys had filmed it and then showed me and said, yeah, send me that. I'm sure it would do well on Instagram, and it did. Brilliant, mate. From one amazing experience to another, you moved to Dundee, my hometown. Did Jackie McNamara, obviously you said you played him before, did Jackie phone you up? Yeah, so I'd come back in the January, so contract was up in China. So I went back into the UK and just wanted to get back into that UK environment, changing rooms, missed the banter and missed being around. Everyone had enough of the naked nights out with the Chinese, and thought I'd get back to Dundee United. And at that time, Dundee United was flying. I think my first game was a semi-final, and we had a really good squad, and I was so keen to join.
So you obviously coming back to Dundee United, you must have missed all the Scottish banter, you know, with fans, referees, coaches.
Yeah. Well, there's Willie Collum, obviously. We played Celtic like 3 or 4 times in a row, and I think he'd given Celtic a penalty or something and was running back. Said to Willie Collum, says, "Fucking hell, Willie, you're having a fucking stinker. Can't believe you ref in the Champions League." Turned around, you know how he looks at you, turned around and goes, "Can't believe you played in the World Cup." And just ran off. I remember thinking, yeah, fair play.
Only in Scotland, mate.
Only in Scotland would you get a referee turn around to you and saying, "Can't believe you played in the World Cup."
Brilliant. Me wide though. Was that the time they had good young players? Was Gold and that still there at that time?
No, he had just left. Armstrong and Gary Mackay-Stevens was there, but they left a couple of weeks later, and then we kind of just free-falled from there, which was a little bit unfortunate because we had joined on such a high and I had such high expectations there, but it just didn't work out for one reason or another. And but yeah, I just loved being back in that UK environment.
Were they just too hard to replace, the players?
Yeah, I think we had played of such, not off the cuff, but we relied on like our front three and the midfield four. So I think we lined up with, remember Nadir Shifshi up top? Armstrong, Mackay-Stevens, and then we had Rankin and Payton just kind of sitting. And we had that was a good sort of balance. And then when you lose kind of those two, and then Nads left in the summer, it's hard to replace those kind of players. And just kind of struggled from then on. And but yeah, the first 6 months was really good. We had some good players coming through: Charlie Telfer, Bless Spittle, Cole Donaldson. All players that were coming through, and we had a good squad. And
how was Jackie as a manager? Is he what you imagined he would be?
Yeah, he was good. He was really good. He was had a great team spirit. Created a good environment for the boys to train in. Simon Donnelly and Darren Jackson were his 2 assistants. So like that, yeah, training sessions were good, and the environment was really enjoyable to play at, and it was just a shame the way it worked out.
Were you a bit upset when Jackie got sacked?
A little bit. I maybe thought it was a little bit unfair, but at the same time, that's way above your pay grade, those kind of decisions, and they need to look out for the club and what was going on. But maybe on reflection, some fans would think it was a fair decision, others would probably think that he should have stayed. It
must be sad for you to see where they are, the kind of state they're in just now.
Yeah, it was. So I left in the January, and they got relegated that season. So it was, again, even when I was leaving, I think we were bottom or near enough at the bottom, and it was tough, and I felt that, probably would have got them relegated even more if I stayed. But it was, you kind of felt that you were leaving them, not throwing in the towel, but jumping ship as such, which wasn't the case. It was just that, again, a China bid had come in, and they accepted it.
Because Mixu came in, didn't he?
Mixu came in the last couple
of months. Was he as mad as he looked, Mixu?
So Ranks had him at Hibs, and he said there was a few, John Rankin, who said there's a few, like, he's crazy, but he came in and he was a little bit he was a little bit more mellowed than he was at Hibs, but he was good. I enjoyed working for him. He probably came in and tried to play out from the back and try to play football the way he played with Kilmarnock, I think the season before, and we were just so low on confidence and struggling that we kind of suffered a little bit, and that's probably made us maybe drift apart from the rest of the league, and maybe on reflection he would have changed a few things, but it's just one of those things that happen.
Because it's a big club, United, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. Even my first game, the semi-final, I think we took 12,000 there, and the cup final against Celtic. It was that time we played Celtic like 3 or 4 games in a row, which didn't help. I think we played them in the Scottish Cup, got them in a replay, so I had to play them a replay, then played them in the league, then we played them in the cup final, but I think got beaten every one. But yeah, I'd missed, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to come back, was to be in the UK and to have all the banter that goes with playing Celtic and Rangers and everyone else.
Brilliant, mate. You've globetrotted since leaving United, you went back to China, you're now back at Bradford. Hopefully a wee change in fortunes under David Hopkins. How's he been so far? Good?
Yeah, he's been really good.
Bradford loves Scottish ginger managers.
Yeah, I've had a few since. So I joined, played 3 games and got a knee injury, and then didn't play for the rest of the season, and came back, and I've had 3 managers since. So I think I've got the record for the most amount of managers for least amount of appearances. But yeah, we're struggling a little bit at the moment, but I'm sure he'll turn it around with the new manager in, and the way he wants us to play, we'll start getting results soon.
We just went into that was a bit more interview mode there, wasn't it? When
Yeah.
I asked that question. Just on the future, mate, it seems to me like you've got a great head. Management, coaching, when you finish?
Yeah.
Next year?
Yeah, this in January.
Is it someone you'd fancy, though, coaching or managing?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I don't know if I could deal with all the politics that go with it. That'd probably be my biggest downfall. You know, players that think they're better than they actually are. That's probably my pet hate.
You'd hate me then.
Yeah, you know, when you're in a change room and there's that guy that's like, why am I not playing? And you know, I should be playing, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, you're lucky you've even got a contract. They're probably thinking that about me, but you know, those players that you're just like, I don't know if I could be handling.
Dreamers.
Yeah, I don't know if I could be handling boys doing that. But yeah, you know, I really enjoy football, and I'd like to be involved in some part of football, whether it's media, take your job once you retire.
You can have it, mate. You can have it.
But yeah, probably try and stay in football of some kind.
Big man, you've been absolutely brilliant. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers.